We're going to look at 1 Samuel chapter 1, 3. Now, do you guys remember Samuel? He's a little boy, and then his mom was Hannah. Hannah couldn't have a baby for a long time, so she prayed. But before she prayed, she said, if I have a baby, if you bless me, then I will dedicate my son to you, and he will become a priest. So do you remember that? So Samuel, he is born, and then he becomes a priest. Now, he's a little kid. Okay? So now we're starting from there. Now, this man, Samuel's dad, used to go up year by year from his city to worship and to sacrifice to the Lord of hosts at Shiloh, where the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests of the Lord. Okay, so there's a lot of names here, but basically there's Samuel, but he's still young, right? But there's a priest. There's his mentor. Who's that? It is Eli. Okay, back then, basically, if you're a priest, then your sons are priests, and then your sons are priests, and they become priests and priests and priests and priests. Okay? So we have Eli, who is the mentor of Samuel. Okay? And he has two sons. What are his names? Hophni and Phinehas. Okay, they were priests as well. But this is what it says about them. Now the sons of Eli, again, Hophni and Phinehas, they were worthless. Okay, that's quite a statement, because these are religious people. Okay, imagine it's like the pastor. Okay, and the Bible describes they were worthless. They were worthless men. Why? It describes right here. They did not know the Lord. They did not know the Lord. Now, the Hebrew word is called yada. Okay, it's to know. Now, this is quite difficult because in English, there's two definitions of to know. For example, when I tell you, like, I know about somebody, I use the word I know. When I have a relationship with somebody, I go, oh, I know them as well. There's two different contexts. Okay, so for example, I can say one of my favorite basketball player is LeBron James. So do I know him or do I know him? Yeah, I know. When I say I know LeBron James, what are you guys thinking? I know about him, right? Well, what makes you think I don't have his phone number and he calls me? No, right? No, because there's so much. He's such a famous person, and I have a lot of information with him. What does that tell you? That doesn't mean that I know him. Does that make sense? I don't have a relationship with him. Now, again, in English, you just say, I know him and I know him. Or we use the word I know about him to clarify because it's confusing. Now, some of you guys, any of you guys took Spanish? Then you know that in Spanish, there's actually two words for it. It's saber and conocer, right? I don't know Spanish either, but that's what it says, okay? So saber is like you know about information. And then conocer is you know the person. You have a personal relationship. The word right here, to know, yada, the Hebrew word, it's talking about the second word. Okay, so these are priests. Do they know about God? Absolutely, of course they know about God. They knew from a very young age, right? From like Yumin's age or even younger. He grew up, right? His dad taught him the Torah, the law, the Old Testament. They know the procedures. They know when they come to church or the temple, they have to do this, they have to do this. They know a lot of information about God, of course. However, they were worthless. Why? Because they do not actually have an intimate relationship with God. This is how intimate this word actually is in Hebrew. If you actually look in Genesis, when it says Adam and Eve, had sex, it doesn't say that. The Bible doesn't say that. Okay? It says when Adam and Eve, yada, when they knew each other, they conceived. So look at the Bible, it actually says knew. People say, oh, they're, like writing sex is too much, so they just put knew. No, it's because the word itself, it implies deep intimacy. Okay? Again, these are pastors, these are religious people. They knew a lot of information about God, but they didn't know him personally. And because of that, it didn't really matter. As we see, what they did was they were taking like bribes. They were like sleeping with all these different girls that were coming. And so they were doing a lot of worthless things. They were religious people, but it didn't change them. It didn't mean that they had an actually deep relationship with God. Now, personally for me, every time I read this, it always like arrow to my heart. Because why? Because I'm a religious person. What I mean by religious person meaning like my job itself, it's religious. Okay, so I do a lot of religious activities. That's my job. Okay, 8 to 5, what do? I do religious things. I do Bible studies, I do visitations, I prepare Bible studies, what am I doing? Religious things. You ask me a question, I will probably, most likely than not, be able to answer you. Why? Because I have a lot of information. I went to school for this kind of stuff. But every time I read this, I think, do I really know God though? Do I really have an intimate relationship with God? And a lot of times, the reason why I burn out a lot of times when I'm as a pastor, or I burn out, or I become very like stuck spiritually, is because I know a lot of stuff about God. I'm working for God, but I'm not actually interacting with God. And that's, I think, a lot of Christians today as well. A lot of Christians, they've been at church for a long time. Okay, they grew up in the church. They were born Christian or SDA. And they say, you know what? When I come to church, I know exactly how to act. I know the exact lingo people use. I know that, I know the proper way to say things or to behave in a certain way. I know some information as well. I know these stories. But in actuality, we don't really know God. Just a lot of stuff about God. And that's where spiritual infancy and spiritual child is usually at. That's where they're at. They know some stuff, but they don't really have a deep relationship. So no matter where you are infant, child, adult, young adult, or parent, wherever you are at, this is vital. Because once you stop doing this, then you are going to become malnourished, okay, spiritually. And that's where your growth is actually going to stunt. If anything, it's going to actually go downhill from there. Now, that's kind of the bad news. But the good news is that a couple years back, I learned to actually yada God much better. Okay, not just know about God, not just study, but actually learn to really have a deeper relationship with God. And I want to share that today. It's very, very practical. Okay, we're going to talk about prayer. Okay, this is how usual for most of us prayer goes. It's thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. And then after that, God, please, this thing, and I need this kind of thing. Amen. But have you guys ever thought what this would actually sound like if you actually had a conversation like this with any of your friends? Danny, thank you for always buying me food. Thank you for coming to serve church. By the way, can you help me this Sunday? I got to cut grass. Can you help me out? Bye. Okay? It's funny. Danny will be like, what? Okay, what's going on here? But imagine every time somebody contacts you, all they do, they don't let you talk. They just say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, 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 bye. You'd be like, what? Why would you do that? After a while, what would you do? We would just stop responding altogether, right? Because hey, let's have a communication. And I think that's why a lot of times our prayers, again, one really important thing, Thanksgiving is very important. Requesting is also very important. Both of these are biblical things. But the problem is a lot of times this is all we do. Okay? And so again, that's why a lot of our prayer life, it's not very vibrant. It's very boring. Because this is very easy. So it just becomes kind of like a script. And some of you guys, there's prayers from the past when maybe as a young child you learned it. And sometimes you're just saying things and you don't even know that you're praying. You said it so fast. And that's where we get. So a couple of years back, I learned a new way of praying, and that really helped me. I'm going to teach you guys. It's called conversational prayer. Okay? Very simple. Number one, conversational. So it's basically you're talking to God. Okay, that's what conversational prayer really looks like. Number one, no thanksgiving and no request. Once again, thanksgiving is a good thing. Request is a good thing. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying when you are doing the conversational prayer, don't do this. And see how long your prayer actually lasts. And see how awkward it's going to be. That's the whole point. Then you're actually really going to know, do I really have a relationship with God or not? Because if I can't talk to him for even 30 seconds, then how is that a relationship? Okay? Second thing is open your eyes and actually talk out loud. Now, you don't have to be like, like loud, but as in like you're verbally things. Okay? Okay. Number three is get in a comfortable position. It's laying down on your bed because most likely you're just going to fall asleep. Okay? What helped me the most is walking, okay, or driving. Nowadays, it's really hot outside, as you guys know. And then if I go outside at night, mosquitoes decide to all just come to me, okay? So I can't do walking anymore. So these days, whenever I drive, I try to do this. Okay, so it's pretty simple, right? You're basically having a conversation with God. Just as if, and I know, you don't hear the audible voice back, okay? But it'll get there. You'll get there. Okay, you need to first just get used to just having a conversation with God. Okay, now, I'm not saying that all your prayers need to be like this. Obviously, there is a time of thanksgiving and request, of course. But I also want you guys to actually try this out because it has really changed my relationship with God and my connection with God. So, when you're walking, okay, or just sit in a very comfortable couch, okay, or driving is very, very good. And then the way I was taught is to do it for 20 minutes. Okay? Now, that's a long time. If you can't do it, then that's fine. Try 10 minutes. If 10 minutes is too hard, try 5 minutes. Just set a specific time and actually try this and talk to God. All right. A couple of things that's going to happen while you are actually trying this. Once again, since this is a new thing, with every new thing, everything that we try, we're not always the first time. It's always awkward. It's always difficult. And so same thing with this. Is this going to be hard? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean you just go, oh, I'm going to stop. Oh, I must not be spiritual. Or, oh, I must not be religious. No. Okay? Everything you start new, there's some growth that needs to happen. Okay. So a couple of tips for you as you guys are actually trying this out. Oh, before that, let me actually give you example from the Bible of actually conversational prayer. And that's why if you guys actually read the book of Psalms, you'll see this over and over and over and over again. Okay, let's see just one of them. O Lord, rebuke me not in your anger, nor discipline me in your wrath. So seems like he did something wrong. So he's talking to God about it. He says, I know I did something wrong, but be gracious to me. Be gracious to me, Lord, for I am languishing. Heal me. Lord, I know this is a request, but O Lord, for my bones are troubled. My soul also is greatly troubled. But you, Lord, how long? But is this how you guys sound like in your prayers? Not at all, right? Continuing going on. Turn, O Lord, deliver my life. Save me for the sake of your steadfast love. For in death there is no remembrance of you. In Sheol, death, who will give you praise? I am weary with my mourning. Every night I flood my bed with tears. I drench my couch with my weeping. So he's very emotional. He's saying, this is how sad I am. My eyes waste away because of grief. It grows weak because of all my foes. Depart from me, all the workers of evil, for the Lord has heard the sound of my weeping. Okay? So again, does our prayers, most of our I don't know how your prayers sound like, but do most of our prayers look like this? I think I would say no. Okay? But as you are doing this conversational prayer, as you are actually talking to him about maybe some of the stresses that you have, some of the anxiety you have, some of the happiness, the good things that happen, some of the things that you're excited about, as you're just talking to him, instead of just saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, please, 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 as you're actually having a conversation, your prayers will actually start to look more like this. Why? Because you're having a conversation with him. Some tips that's going to help you. Number one, you will get distracted. Okay? I mean, just human relationship, we get distracted. So what makes you think that when you're talking to God, you're not going to get distracted? If you get distracted, address the distraction. So for example, you're driving or you're walking and you see like a bug. Okay, and you start like looking at the bug. Or like you got a text message from somebody and you're looking at your phone while you're supposed to do it. Then talk to God about that. Say, oh God, I was talking to you, but I looked at my phone and there's a text message from Sarah. Oh, and Sarah and this, I did this with Sarah last week and this is what happened. So address it. Because if you keep trying to like, no, I'm going to distract myself, what's going to happen? You're going to just keep thinking about that and stop praying altogether. Second thing is, if you think about, because what happens? This happens all the time, where you're praying about something and then you're thinking about something else. Then stop praying and start talking to God about what you're thinking about that. So you go, things like this, you go, oh God, like I was talking to, I was hanging out with Kurumi today, but I'm thinking about like Grace or something. So I stop, I go, oh, I'm thinking about Grace right now, God. And the relationship with me and her. And how I need to do this for her. Oh, and then I need to go to the market. So again, wherever your mind leads you, talk to God about that. Next, you have nothing else to say. Trust me, some of you guys, you're going to be like, okay, that was 5 minutes. And you look, that was only 1 minute. Or some of you guys, you're going to be like, whoa, that was good 20 minutes, like 2 minutes. You only went 2 minutes. Again? So if you have nothing else to say, then say the same thing over. Okay, but add more details into it. So whether you do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and again, there's no magical thing with numbers. Okay, but just set a time and actually try to do this. Okay, and then actually try to communicate with God through this process. Okay, last one. If you need examples, you're like, I just don't know what to pray about, then read the book of Psalms. Because throughout the Psalms, that's what these psalmists are doing. They're having a conversation with God. They're saying, God, I am so happy this is happening. Or God, I am so sad that this is happening. My relationship is falling apart, or my sin is getting in the way, or I'm really excited, God, that you bless me with money, or you bless me with a job. So you're actually communicating with God. Okay? One of the first things that happened to me was, again, it helped me at least to recognize, wow, I thought I have certain relationship with God. But after doing this, I think the biggest shocker to me is, wow, like I don't know what else to really say to God. Like I can't go for more than 2 minutes at most. And there's nothing else I could say. So it really showed me, for me at least, where my relationship was at. But the good thing is, after I did it over and over and over and over again, it actually became easier. And I was able to actually talk to God about the deep desires of my heart. And when that started happening, then I started to really desire God so much more. I actually started to look forward to these times. Now, of course, there's up and downs, right? Life gets in the way. When baby came out, just like this whole thing just went out the window because I just couldn't find time. But when I started doing this, when I do this, that's when I feel that deep connection with God, and that's where I actually deeply, deeply grow. So, my challenge for all of you guys is to actually try this out. Now, as you guys know, we have time of reflection right after this. So I'm going to actually give you guys 5 minutes. So usually it's only 1 minute, but this time I'm going to actually give you 5 minutes Try actually to do this. Whatever is in your heart. And some of you guys might be saying, oh, I'm not supposed to think about this on Sabbath. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about how do I sound, or I'm not supposed to say, don't worry about that. Just talk to God about whatever's actually in your heart. I'll give you guys 5 minutes to do that. But my challenge for you really is throughout the week for you to do it. I know that most of us here drive at a certain point. So that's a great place to do it. Turn off podcast or music and just talk to God for 5-10 minutes and see what kind of growth, what kind of vibrant relationship that you will start having with God. Let's go into time of reflection and let's try this conversational prayer.